when you cut through these individual projections, letting everything be exactly as it is. Not like the apple is the apple and your thought is the thought. I'm not talking about objects. When I say as it is, letting it be as it is, means as it actually is. Life as it actually is not a perspective. It is not a picture. It doesn't have a color or a shape. It doesn't have a label. It's not a thing. Life as it actually is, perhaps it's time to consider you've never met it before. And all this is naturally, spontaneously, instantaneously revealed in a moment of transcendence. Can you all hear me? Wonderful. All right, my friends, take a deep breath, relax. Take a few moments to center yourselves, to relax the need for thought. Take another deep breath. And relax. All right, here we are. The science and practice of instant enlightenment starts with an introduction. Enlightenment is a practice. It's a methodology. It's a science. And it is available to essentially every sentient being who has the capacity for self-awareness, for self-reflection, which includes most human beings. Doesn't always look that way, but most human beings do have that capacity. So any such a being as yourself doesn't need much to embark upon the science and practice of enlightenment in a way that's very efficient and immediate. But what you need is initiation or introduction. Initiation is just a fancy term, spiritual term for introduction, to be introduced to something, past which point, past the point of introduction, you can then practice. And the introduction or initiation here is to have a genuine recognition of the natural state, which equals the true nature of life, or if you wish, reality, that which is real as it actually is. And I will explain the 2 to 5 second method as sort of your main tool for this practice, for the science, in greater depth as well. So what is the natural state? And how does someone get introduced to this? It's the natural state because it is natural, which means it is here as it is, regardless. Regardless of what? Regardless of your antics. Regardless of our thinking, of our projections. It is here regardless of our stories, regardless of our feelings and emotions and thoughts. It is natural. It is not made. It is not contrived. The only way in which you could say it has been made is that it's been made by the Creator, the original absolute infinity. As we discussed in the previous session, that is what produced the natural state of awareness, love, light, of that free will, the natural state that we typically call or refer to as God, or the essence, or the basis of all things. So the purpose of the session is to give you a recognition of this natural state in your direct experience beyond a shadow of a doubt, so that upon being properly introduced, you can then properly recognize and deploy the method of taking 2 to 5 seconds of recognition throughout the day, frequently. And to give some credit to my own introduction to the state from my past seeking. A couple of anecdotes. Mostly what I teach, because teaching is nothing but language, essentially. So the language that I use is a bit of a distillation and hybridization. Mostly, I mean, some of it comes from other sources or has been inspired along the way by other sources. But mostly, if I had to draw a comparison to the existing lineages on Earth, I would say it's a hybridization and distillation, mostly of Dzogchen or Dzogchen, and or also known as Ati Yoga, and Advaita Vedanta. That's the core of at least the aspect of what I teach that has to do with self-realization, with the direct path to awakening or enlightenment or self-illumination. And specifically, this session will highlight or emphasize more the Dzogchen side of things. But paradoxically, I mean, complementarily, I was introduced myself to the natural state by exactly that, a combination of Advaita Vedanta in the form of the Ashtavakra Gita and a Dzogchen lineage successor, currently by the name of Ziji Rinpoche. And it was the combination of the introduction provided by these two sources that struck me at a pivotal moment in my seeking. I was 18 years old and I was in India. And I was intensely seeking for whatever I was seeking for. And in a sort of frustrated, intense seeking phase of my life, these two sources came together at the same time to introduce me more clearly to what I was seeking, which heretofore I tried to contrive, I tried to create, I tried to find, I tried to do, I tried to practice, I tried to quiet my mind, change my state of consciousness. Essentially, I tried to spiritually transform, change, up-level myself. But then all the seeking energy, when it was met with these two catalysts, as I sometimes say in my biographical anecdotes, that's when 90% of the seeking energy dissipated or got transmuted into finding energy, I suppose. So I wanted to just give credit to the Ashtavakra Gita. Nziji Rinpoche. Thank you very much for helping me be introduced to the natural state. And the beauty of being introduced to the natural state is that something other than your mind begins to influence you. Right now, perhaps, for you guys to differing degrees, depending on your level of clarity regarding the natural state, you are under the influence of a personality. You're seeing, you're thinking, you're reasoning, you're believing, you're acting, your motivations, your desires, your feeling state, your self-esteem, your understanding of yourself, your sense of self, all of this, your view of the world is currently under the influence of a personality. So it's not unlike being under the influence of a drug or an alcohol, except this one is constant. There's only one cure. But when you are introduced to the natural state, something else begins to inform your mind, body, spirit, illusion, or complex. Something else begins to infiltrate, permeate, influence your thoughts, actions, deeds, motivations, and so on. This is why it's essential that you are introduced properly to the natural state, because it is your cure for everything. It is the ultimate medicine. So again, those anecdotes aside and acknowledgements having been made, the natural state, with the emphasis on natural, implies that it's not of your own creation. That nothing you do or think or label or define or think you understand has any sway on the natural state. It also means it's always here. It implies that it is always already here. It is simply obscured by whatever else in addition you choose to do or be under the influence of. Enlightenment then is of the moment. It is in the moment. It is as the moment. It is attainable for a moment, in each moment. And the 2 to 5 second window suggestion or practice or method is simply to get you to induce a brief moment where you apply the shift that we are applying here during this session. It's a shift in your attention from objects to the natural state. One easy way for people to recognize this is to use the word awareness, or that which is aware. Now, that is, at the end of the day, also just a term that we need to let go of. If we wish to deepen our experiential recognition of the natural state, we need to go beyond the words awareness, beyond the words I am, beyond the words natural state, beyond the words God. We need to drop those words because those words are still definitions. And they, in their own right, can obscure the actual luminosity of the spontaneous, uncontrived nature of the moment, of each moment, of this moment. So when you take a 2 to 5 second moment, ideally, what happens is that you let everything be exactly as it is, which is actually synonymous, mechanically speaking, to dropping your mind altogether, even though that seems to be an action. So the paradox here is that there's a distinction to be made between allowing everything to be exactly as it is, with the emphasis on exactly, which means and implies no fixing, no changing, no alteration. And when you don't alter anything, when you don't try to avoid, when you don't try to replace, when you don't try to assert, when you don't try to agree or disagree, accept or reject, affirm or deny, cling or escape, what you are mechanically effectively, quote unquote, doing or allowing to occur is that the entire construct of the mind is dropped. You are essentially stepping into a void of all familiar terminology, of all language, of all stories, of all object-based ways of knowing things, object-based knowledge, concept-based knowledge. And you're stepping into a void-like natural presence. That's what your attention shifts into, which then reveals the flawless nature of whatever experience or appearance you heretofore judged as good or bad, acceptable or avoidable, and so on. So let's say a moment arises in your life, an experience fills up your awareness. You're registering a series of experiences or sensations and beliefs and labels about those sensations. In that moment, you think that life is such and such a way because you are deploying object-based consciousness. You are referencing ideas. You are describing appearances, things that you see, hear, feel, and so on. You are mentally projecting onto what is the idea that it is this or that thing, that it is such and such a way, that it is this or that object. This is not letting life be as it is. It is you adding to or attempting to alter or interject an opinion. In other words, you are proactively, consistently in the business of unenlightening yourself. You are attempting to get as far away from the natural state as you possibly can, though something in you knows it's impossible. That's why avoidance always secretly feels really bad, even if you find a brief moment of relief. This is why procrastination feels bad, even though you are enjoying whatever you are procrastinating by in the moment. Because you know nothing can be avoided ultimately, nor should it be. It is based on an illusion of fear, which is based on a series of concepts that run through your space like a string of story. And when you take 2 to 5 seconds, when you commit to this, and you recognize the natural state, for the time being, you can call that awareness or beingness or I amness or presence, if you will, but you want to let go of those words in order to actually drop into the experiential recognition of it. But every time you take such a 2 to 5 seconds moment, you are, in Dzogchen, is sometimes called as the cutting through. It's an act of cutting through. And one of the primary slogans of this introduction I received at the time was to recognize what's already here. At the time, they referred to it as open intelligence or awareness. For short moments, many times, until it becomes automatic. And I often say, we want to make our first nature, or the recognition of our first nature, second nature. And the way to do this, the only way to do this, is to take moments of recognition. That's it. There's no other way to do this. Moments of recognition equal moments of not unenlightening yourself. It's equally the stoppage of unenlightenment as it is the initiation into what's already enlightened. And there is great liberation in this for you. There is profound liberation in this for you. In fact, everything you want, everything you seek, everything you struggle with, all of it for you shall be resolved in a single moment of pure recognition. And this you can demonstrate to yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. In fact, I prefer that you don't. So test this out. Take a scenario that you do not prefer. Some kind of conflict, perhaps in relationship. Notice how this is an act of your imagination. This scenario is an act, a product of your imagination, of your ability to project onto this natural awareness whatever you so choose to project or imagine. Imagination equals projection, at least in this context. And so now that you have this scenario in mind, something you do not prefer, something that you are challenged by, something that seems to cause you suffering, take 2 to 5 seconds. In other words, take a moment to drop everything you think you know and recognize this primordial clarity, this space-like, sky-like cognizance, which hears my voice with zero effort. Right there in those 2 to 5 seconds, your entire situation was resolved. Now you might then say, or the mind might object and say, well, that's wishful thinking. Sure, I can tune it out for a moment. But wouldn't that just be an avoidance for 2 to 5 seconds? After which I then claim that the problem has been resolved, whereas that situation still exists, and the moment I think of it, it causes me problems and suffering yet again. Valid objection. However, this is where I want you to understand the 2 to 5 second practice and the science of instant enlightenment or self-liberation more clearly. You did not avoid. You let it be exactly as it is. Now, one way to do this is to drop everything you think you know, but with practice of recognizing, having been introduced, having been initiated by yourself to the natural state, when you've had a few of those confirming, confidence-inspiring moments, that liberation is yours for the taking. By in a complex situation that causes you suffering, to drop everything you think and recognize in that moment, not away from that moment, in the very presence of that moment with all the appearances exactly as they are, simply minus your indulgence in the mental descriptions, and drop everything you think you know, but still stay present to the situation as it arises. And instead, you shift your attention for that moment from story to presence. The presence of what? The natural presence of a timeless, sentient beauty, a spontaneously present intelligence that is here right now, hearing my voice without effort. It cannot be denied. You cannot experience without it. It is always present, therefore, throughout each and every experience, no matter the shape it takes, no matter how long the problem appears to last. And when you shift your emphasis, that's all it is. It's a shifting of emphasis from what you think you know, you arrogant SOB, to the humility and innate purity present in this instinctual recognition of that which knows your present experience without effort. You're not avoiding anything. You're not replacing anything. You're not playing with words or labels. You're not changing it from bad to good. You're not doing an imaginative exercise, trying to attract something better to yourself. Enlightenment is not about that. That's a valid practice for its own purposes. But it is not the practice of enlightenment, and it does not lead you to ultimate liberation, which you do deserve and which you do secretly seek, whether you know this or not. After you have introduced yourself to a clear, lucid moment of primordial freedom, formlessness, definitionless being, referenceless awakeness, pure costless joy, humility, gratitude, all in one. You will see that that situation is now rendered absolutely pure. And I want to talk to you about this a little bit more, because this is where the mind cannot really be used to understand. So the paradox here is that you can walk into a nasty situation. You can get into a bar full of addicts and start some kind of a riot, get into some kind of a conflict with someone, be threatened with your life, or more commonly, perhaps, have some weird, unspoken, decade-long conflict between you and your spouse that just kind of slowly kills both of you off while the television is running in the background. Worse than the bar riot, in my opinion, but more commonly accepted for some reason. For the bar riot, you'd go to jail, but for slowly killing your partner most insidiously and yourself, destroying both your life force over the lifetime span of a decade, somehow is legal. Beats me, but anyway. So think of that heinous crime of your relationship, the way that you've been living it. Feel the death and the remorse and the regret and the pain and the fear to which you have subjected yourself over and over and over again for absolutely no courageous reasons whatsoever. Feel this pain, this missed opportunity, this disagreement with love, and instantly stop thinking about it altogether, and notice the causeless joy, the perfection of the natural state that supersedes it, that precedes it, that permeates it, that pervades it, without which the problem couldn't even appear to be there. The basis within which all these objects of perception appear. Recognize this openness of awareness itself. And notice how that entire situation is instantly forgiven, released, liberated, spontaneously, with no effort, with no contrivance, with no new mental construct. All you did was, instead of thinking that you knew something about that situation, instead of defining and labeling it, you let it be exactly as it is. And when you let it be exactly as it is, all that bandwidth that normally goes into defining what it is, creating your personal world inside of reality, suddenly that bubble pops for a few seconds, and there's this pristine, intuitive sense of all pervasive perfection for no reason, with no cause, against all odds, seemingly illogically so. For that moment, your entire life is illuminated. For that moment, you have exactly zero problems. For that moment, you are aware of the natural state where enlightenment is already accomplished, because it is as it is. All that's required is the courage to become completely nonlinear for 2 to 5 seconds. To be completely devoid of conceptualizing anything for 2 to 5 seconds. And then recognizing the natural intelligence, the presence, the clarity, the open awareness that remains. The I am that I am, which has no form. It is a formless presence of sorts. Life doesn't have a form. Your imagination paints pictures and words and forms and shapes, but the true isness of life as it is has no form. It also has no form. For that would be a form. So it's also not an apple. It's also not your mutually abused spouse situation. It's also not your financial issue. But it also isn't your spouse. It also isn't your financial situation. And it also isn't an apple. It is neither perception, nor is it non-perception. It is neither this, nor is it not this. It is not that either, nor is it not that. You see, when we allow something to be exactly as it is, and the only thing you can ever allow to be as it is the moment, the now, the reality. When we understand properly what is meant by as it is, we realize it's not even about letting go of something or letting it be as it is, as in an act. It's a recognition, it's a clear moment, a lucid moment within the dream of awareness, where there is no indulgence in personal interpretation of anything that arises. We simply then recognize the presence as it is, which resolves any conflict, any paradox, any problem, including your misallocated seeking impulse. The seeking impulse is your divine lifeline. But the way that you allocate it, whether it be to relationships, to drugs, to money, to pleasure, to avoidance, so on. That's the misallocation of this divine gift, of that impulse within you to seek, to know, to find freedom, to find source, to return back home, so to speak.
Massaro University is a vibrant online community dedicated to accelerating your awakening and activating your purpose for the benefit of all. Join live sessions with Bentinho and workshops led by experienced facilitators. Deepen your wisdom, empowerment, and self-knowledge, and experience life-changing shifts week after week. At Massaro University, finding like-hearted seekers is easy and inevitable. Lifelong friendships and a shared purpose fuel profound personal and collective growth. Create your free account today at massaro.university and step into a community that's designed to elevate every aspect of your life.
2 to 5 seconds means you stop deciding what to allocate your seeking impulse to. This divine light, this divine flame in your heart of hearts. Instead of trying to direct that flame left or right by blowing on it with this is this and that's that and this is good and this is bad and I like pleasure and I dislike pain. I like my neighbor to my left, I dislike the neighbor to my right. Without artificially blowing on this inner flame of God within you, seeking to know God within you more and more infinitely. When you stop blowing on the flame of your inner seeking impulse, it finds itself completely quenched, satisfied, in the perfection of the moment exactly as it is. And you realize all the problems you were projecting did not actually exist. They had no bearings on reality. They had no traction. They had no hold on this ingraspable, formless, timeless freedom that hears my voice right now, that sees your problems, that sees your freedom, that sees your difficulties, that sees your pleasure equally. So here you go beyond good and bad, right and wrong. You're not trying to become a good person. So here you are with this appearance of your mental construct or your mind-body-spirit complex. And you've got these seeming flaws. You have negative thoughts throughout the day. You're not always the nicest, most generous person. You're not always the most fearless, heroic, peace of mind character. And then you learn about spirituality. And maybe even you hear me teach about purification, which I am a proponent of, paradoxically. But the purification from the vantage point of enlightenment is something that naturally occurs as an after effect. It's a byproduct. So when you recognize in your filthiest, secretest, dirtiest, most manipulative, most sneaky little moment, those moments you would rather not admit to yourself, let alone to your spouse. Those dirtiest little egotistical, shadowy moments. are already rested in a wholly pure basis. Now, you can either indulge and further articulate and believe in those nasty moments and that you are this person and that this person should condemn itself and then fix itself and then purify itself and so on, to be worthy of God's love, or to be worthy of enlightenment, or to be worthy of freedom, or to be worthy even of goodness. Or you can let your nastiest moment be exactly as it is, which breaks the spell of your engagement. And it is the spell of your engagement with these thoughts that fuels their delusions, their obscuration, and their important omission of timeless perfection here and now. But if you let it be exactly as it is, and the only thing you change is that you stop engaging in the comments section of your own brain, you are free. And your seeking impulse, that flame within the hearts, will now find its balance, will now recognize its intrinsic holy nature, its perfection. And you should not arrive at any mental conclusions about that, for that would be another engagement that is unnecessary. It's another attempt to defile what is perfect. You let it be perfectly rested in the naturally perfect nature of the natural state. And that cleanses your vision. That purifies your associations with form. That frees you. And that will begin to intelligently inform you from an intelligent basis which is not object-based, which is no reference point. It has no reference point. It is causeless, it is formless, it is ridiculously nonsensical to the human mind. And yet, it is that space, that openness, which enables you to hear my voice, which enables you to choose mental engagement or to rest in the basis of this timeless perfection, this great perfection of the moment. Enlightenment is always instantaneous, for it is of the instant, by the instant, of the moment, by the moment. So next time you take a 2 to 5 second moment, pretend you, like a wet dog, you shake off everything about yourself. It's an instant shakeout. And for those 2 to 5 seconds, you remember your freedom. Your unbelievable freedom. The fact that you're not this and you're not that, and neither this nor that can define you. And neither this nor that is real. And you stay in that balanced in-between space. It's in between all these fictitious, contrived realities of the mind. And so you fall through the cracks of the illusion of your own projections by letting all the projections be as they are. If you keep walking across that pavement of your mind, if you keep the momentum of labels and stories and descriptions and defenses going, you will go too fast. You will not be able to fall through the cracks between these individual projections. But when you cut through these individual projections with a pristine moment of 2 to 5 seconds of no bullshit, no assertion, no reference point, letting everything be exactly as it is. Not like the apple is the apple and your thought is the thought and this table is a table. I'm not talking about objects. When I say as it is, letting it be as it is, means as it actually is. And it's never been an apple, and it's never been a table. Those were all your imagination. Life as it actually is not a perspective. It is not a picture. It doesn't have a color or a shape. It doesn't have a label. It's not a thing. Life as it actually is, perhaps it's time to consider you've never met it before, except perhaps through an introduction like this. But life as it actually is the antidote to life as it appears to be. And life as it appears to be, as you know, is not always that enjoyable. So when you let life be as it actually is, you're effectively dissolving life as it appears to be. For when you cease to engage in life as it appears to be to you, you awaken to life as it actually is. So it is like a power outage of the mind for just a few seconds, where what actually exists is revealed in the absence of indulgence. So 2 to 5 seconds, and you just stop completely, which equals letting everything be as it is, not trying to change it. You're not trying to change the feeling. You're not trying to change the perspective. You're not even trying to stop your mind. I know this is paradoxical, but you see, the way to stop the mind is to not even try to stop the mind. So it's an instant moment of transcendence where you're taken beyond yourself simply through the immediacy of this moment, not in some weird, special, spiritual way. You're immediately transcending the illusion, the projection of your thinking mind by just having that 2 to 5 second commitment to freedom, to not this, not that, to this is not my world. It doesn't work the way I think it does. This situation isn't FUBAR. That 2 to 5 seconds where you commit to being completely formless, definitionless, shapeless, in the recognition of exactly that, formless, shapeless aliveness. The more you commit to that, the more your emphasis and allegiance shifts from the thinking mind with its endless stories to remembering how perfectly free you are in truth. Even if you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't think it, you don't believe it, nobody affirms it for you, you go beyond all that. 2 to 5 seconds is a moment of devotion to your original primordial freedom beyond all form. Now, an entry-level version of the 2 to 5 seconds would be to take 2 to 5 seconds with this one you're more familiar with. 2 to 5 seconds where you stop thinking and you recognize the presence of awareness. But really where you want to take this, or where you want to allow this to go and where it will go if you properly commit to this, is that in those 2 to 5 seconds, no matter what was going on for you just a second ago, no matter how intense your life seemed to be, how unfair everything was, how confused and frustrated and abandoned you felt, if you do it properly, if your commitment is true, you will transcend all that in an instant because you are committed to remembering your ultimate absolute freedom as the truth of your being. So then you cannot be abandoned. It's not true. Cannot be true. Neither are you not abandoned, which is just a counter perspective. You're neither abandoned nor not abandoned. You're neither loved nor not loved. You're neither acceptable or rejectable. You're neither enlightened or not enlightened. For a moment, you go beyond all that mental nonsense and you commit to recognizing, to knowing how you are beyond it all, how you are free in the presence of whatever appears already. Because whatever appears is an appearance of freedom. So the thing you were trying to avoid is suddenly revealed to be perfect. It's the perfection that you sought by trying to avoid it in the first place. But the perfection you were trying to find by avoiding what you fear or what feels bad, the perfection you were trying to find through that avoidance is revealed in the presence of the colors and the neutral shapes and the neutral dimensions of what you heretofore labeled intense, abandoned, painful, and so on. And now, in that same picture of the illusion, your allegiance has shifted to freedom, to the basis within which it all arises, the awareness of which it is an appearance. So now the very same appearance of your spouse and your financial situation, good or bad, all of these pixels remain the same. You didn't actually replace any of the pixels of this dream. You realize the pixels are made of the light that you were seeking by trying to avoid the pixels. So you see, initially it's like we turn off that TV, we turn off that monitor, we turn off the pixels so that we recognize, wait a second, I'm not inside of a movie. The movie is happening inside of a screen. And then we turn the lights back on. And as we remember the screen, which is analogous to our great timeless freedom, our formlessness, our not this and not that, neither this nor that. It's the freedom of the in-between, of the cracks between the pavement of artificially constructed concepts of the mind. And in that freedom, in that middle ground, which is infinite and true. Now, as we turn the TV of our life back on and we look over to our spouse again, and we check our bank account numbers again, we see the light. We see the screen. We do not see the movie. More and more, this is how you liberate yourself. This is how you realize that your annoying spouse is what you've been looking for. Not in the way of them being an object, not in the way you've defined them, but in the spontaneous freedom as it appears, without bondage or constriction, without limitation or conception. As it is, as they appear, the light of which your spouse is made is the light you've been seeking by trying to avoid your spouse, or by trying to hold on to your spouse, same thing. But you see, you want to see what things are made of, not how they appear to your description-ridden delusions. You want to see reality as it is, and a moment of spontaneous remembrance of how completely free and formless you are, how completely timeless the basis, the essence of your awareness truly is. Just by committing to that and emphasizing that and pouring all your devotion into that for 2 to 5 seconds, frequently throughout the day, cutting through the nonsense of your projected world, which has never existed and has cost you nothing but misery and has done nothing but kill those around you slowly. All of that is self-liberated, illuminated, enlightened, purified from within through the intuitive recognition of this great freedom, which we can call awareness if you wish. God's perfection, the original purity which has no form, which cannot be found, which is not of the person, it is not an action of doing. It is a matter of being. It's not even a matter of the act of being. It is a matter of being itself. Spontaneous, self-liberated, already completely free, whole, and pure. And this recognition, this alignment to this recognition will heal your mind-body-spirit complex. It will unify your distortion. It will merge it into wholeness. It will balance out your imbalances. If you just let all your imbalances be and you donate it back to the field of great perfection, and you see the pixels of your own distortions as made of the light that enables them. Everything is made of freedom, including the most suffocating feeling. Imagine you're drowning to death. That is profound freedom in the form of an awkward sensation of water filling the lungs and the brain freaking out of instinct and the genetics flaring up because it's programmed to survive within this illusion in a certain way. All of those shapes and sizes and feelings are already rested in perfect abidance of the original formless freedom. This is where the mind cannot blend these two concepts. You need to just grok it. You need to just intuit it. You need to just have faith in it. But the 2 to 5 second practice will reveal this indivisibility of form and freedom, of pain and joy, of suffering and timeless happiness. Enlightenment is not what you think it is. It is better. It's not just the happiness as opposed to the suffering. It's even better than that. It's the happiness in the form of suffering. You just never thought that was a possibility. Freedom in bondage or attachment. Perfection in the grossest of situations. It is better than just being perfect and beautiful and lovely and happy and blissful. It is all these things in horror, in pain, in alienation, in insecurity, in loneliness, in depression, in suffering. So it may not be what you think you want it to be, but I'm telling you it is better than you think it is. And all this is naturally, spontaneously, instantaneously revealed in a moment of transcendence, which is really a moment coming back to reality. It's not transcending reality. It's transcending your projection and coming back down to reality. So transcendence is really a descendance back to reality. Reality is not a form, it's here and now. So take 2 to 5 seconds to give up everything you think you know and revel in the mystery of this great unified, indivisible freedom, which cannot be labeled, which cannot be touched by anything. Yet it is the space which touches everything. Let it be that way. Just let it be as it is. And then you continue to coast on this after effect of your recognition that it is that way. And then you take another intensified moment of 2 to 5 seconds, a few minutes later, or maybe an hour later when you remember. Doesn't matter. Your life is like a necklace with a bunch of pearls on it. The 2 to 5 second moment is like a knife or a pair of scissors that cuts through that necklace of horseshit. And it reveals the reality as flawless and perfect, and yourself as already free, and as your liberation being in your own hands. All the pearls on that single thread are only useful as a necklace, which is an illusion, when the thread is intact. But when you cut through the thread, all the beats of that individual story. This happened when I was 10 years old, and then when I was 16 years old, and this and that and this and this, and my spouse and my neighbor and my finances. All these pearls seize. They stop being able to have the power to produce a life because the story that connected them has been severed by 2 to 5 seconds of profound freedom, 2 to 5 seconds of no horseshit, 2 to 5 seconds of radical, illogical, nonsensical perfection. So use the scissors of perfection, and it only takes you a few seconds to cut through this rope of attachment, this thread which binds all these pearls together, and let them all just fall off the thread and onto the ground. And now they're just individual pearls, meaningless and powerless, for they no longer have the ability to be a necklace as a weight on your neck. Many stories are resolved by a single moment. You are already free in every which way. You are already enlightened. You're never going to get there where it is now. It is not a destination that looks a certain way. It is this. Not this TV, not this voice, not your spouse. Those are all object-based knowledge pieces. Those are all the data within the stream of consciousness. That's not as it is, that's as you've made it appear to exist. Your freedom, your enlightenment is already accomplished here as it actually is before you add this or that storyline, before you add this or that belief about yourself. You are a clean slate, a timeless, indestructible, clean slate, and none of your experiences has ever left a single mark on this originally forevermore pure, timeless space. Free. Now, enlightenment's not a destination. It is as it is, which is not as you think it is. And instinctually, you already know this. Somewhere, you know that you're seeking flame, you're seeking impulse. It's been driving you towards this which is already here. It is not a special experience. It is not a spiritual experience. For that would be another story. And it would make it temporary. And like I said, enlightenment is better than you think it is. It's not a temporary state that you somehow have to fixate in. That would be tedious. That would be a disappointment. Enlightenment is far better than everything you've ever considered it to be. It is better. It is better because it transcends all conceptions, all contraptions, mental contraptions. And because it can never be attained. Because it's never been lost. All it takes for the human mind to be illuminated by this natural basis of timeless perfection is 2 to 5 seconds of remembrance and recognition of this free awareness over and over again until the necklace drops to the floor and you'll have fun dancing on top of those pearls till they are crushed into oblivion and you are permanently healed, forgiven, released back into God. And then God will say, as you were, as you always already were. Welcome back to reality. Oop, there goes gravity. So you have now been initiated, introduced. So then the rest is simply up to whatever you wish to be committed to, and you will have whatever you want. If that is story, painful assumption, then you are absolutely free to project those. But if you're kind of tired of that kind of a life, kind of an illusion, that kind of a dream, then you could now be wholly committed to the freedom without form that is already here. And you just cut through your mind stream several times a day with great love and conviction, stepping into that instant freedom remembrance of not this and not that. I don't know what it is, but it's not this and it's not that. And it's not even not this and it's not even not that. I don't care what it is. I'm not going to define it. It transcends all thinking, but somehow I recognize, I remember, I know, I grok that I am eternal, blemishless, formless, and absolutely freaking free. That is your commitment. You will self-illuminate, self-liberate, self-purify in an instant. And this will then exert its influence and pour ever more light and benefit into your bodies, into the illusion, into your expressions. And you will be governed by an intelligence that is not that tight little necklace. It'll be open. It'll be universal. It'll be holistic. It'll be naturally selfless. Naturally, therefore, joyful, profound, without being special. Ever here, not containable, like the sky. And your life's appearances will be like the blue hue we see when we look up at the sky. You cannot separate the sky from the color blue or blue from the color sky, but yet the color blue does not inhibit the sky. So everything in your life is that color blue of the sky of your awareness, indivisible, formless itself. Even that which appears is formless freedom. Even that which appears to carry conflict with it is pure, originally, timelessly full. There's nothing that's not made up of this intelligent freedom. There's nothing that's not God. There's nothing that's not you. Remember this in those 2 to 5 second window commitments as often as you can remember. And it will become natural, a conviction, and an automatic recognition. You can liberate yourself. Do not wait for me to give it to you in some future Be Life session. Do not wait for yourself to get it after you're worthy. You'll never be worthy. That's your freedom. You will never be worthy of enlightenment. And it doesn't matter because enlightenment is not a destination. You cheated the system. You became unworthy. You became defiled. You became monstrously manipulative, filled with shadows and dark sides that you don't even wish to acknowledge to yourself. Unintegrated, disassociated personalities, multiple personalities, depressed, manic, sneaky, righteous. You became the worst of the worst. You became the most unworthy recipients of enlightenment. And here you are. Enlightenment does not care, one way or the other, for it is not a destination, and there's nothing that's not made up of it. So stop trying to be worthy or perfect, because you already are. Just rest. In the great perfection of your natural state. Be free now, as you are.
Thank you for watching this Bentinho live session. Bentinho now hosts these transformative live sessions completely free, offering profound insights and guidance to support your journey. To attend the next live session with Bentinho, simply visit Massaro University and follow the instructions to create your free account.